Stay tuned. Bridges starts now.
My guest right now on Bridges is Juliano Balzer, and she's an author. We're going to talk about her book, Hiding My Bruises While Singing in the Choir. And, you know, Jan, when I look at that title, I think that's somebody that's been through a few things.
Yes.
What was going on?
Well, it's a literal title. I really was a main soloist in a large church in a choir, and nobody knew that I was being battered at home because choir robes hide the bruises. So it was just a true life for me right there. That's my whole story.
And you penned that in a book.
I did.
All right. But you were a battered wife, so your husband was physically abusing you?
Physically, mentally, yeah.
Was he a Christian?
He was when we were dating and when we got married. It wasn't until after we got married that he got back into the drug scene, drug and alcohol, and it just kind of took him full swing the other way. And he started becoming abusive when I was 9 months pregnant with our baby.
Oh, so you probably felt like you had the pressure of an upcoming child and wanting to hold it together?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so you were Christian, you were going to church because you're singing in the choir.
Right.
Does anybody around you know of the abuse?
Just a very few people, and not even the extent of it. It was very like, oh, it's okay. I didn't go into a lot of detail because it was embarrassing and didn't want everybody to know.
So what made you write the book? I'm taking it you're not in that marriage anymore.
No, I'm not. He actually committed suicide.
I'm so sorry.
And in front of me. So that was part of my story too, is recovering from that traumatic experience and then the depression that comes after that. But what made me want to write the book is just because of the faith I had growing up, I knew God wasn't going to allow me to go through that without some type of purpose in the end. And so I just said from the very beginning, I know this is a temporary journey, and I know someday I will be able to help other women with the situation, and God, just use it however you want.
Because, you know, there are lots of women and lots of children, and actually even in men that are in abusive situations that are afraid to speak up because it can be embarrassing, it can be humiliating. But then you have the added trauma and shock, I would imagine, to watch someone that you love, even if it's an abusive relationship, kill themselves in front of you. That has got to be an amount of horror, really, that I can't even imagine.
And it was, and since I had such a sheltered life growing up in a nice, strong Christian home, I didn't even know that kind of pain existed. So it was more than just a shock. I was like knocked to the ground like a pancake and just couldn't even find my way up.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a nice Christian home. Were you able to talk to your parents about what went on in your life? How did they respond to you when your husband committed suicide in front of you?
Well, my father passed away when I was 15, so I didn't have my father, but my mother was there with me the whole time. She was very supportive. She still didn't know the extent until I wrote my book, but he had tried to harm my mother too, so I sheltered my mom. So a lot of people were like, just go home to your mom. And I'm like, that's the first place he'd look, so I'm not going to go put her in that danger. But she really was there for me.
So you were really kind of on your own, trying to protect everybody in your family and trying to do the right thing. And yet you also mentioned that because you were sheltered as a child, you didn't know that this kind of pain, that this kind of life could be a reality for you. But it is for a lot of people.
A lot. Opened my eyes big. I had such the perfect world growing up, and I call it Janland. And
and it was a good place.
Everybody's happy and nobody fights. You know, it's just awesome. But to think that all the while, somewhere out there, there's so much heartbreak and devastation. I had no idea.
And some people don't have a mom that will stand by them through the whole thing. I mean, there are those of you that are watching right now that you feel absolutely alone, and perhaps you're in an abusive situation or something equally as horrific, and you don't know what to do. And I think, Jan, from what I understand in my years and years of interviewing people, is that kind of once you're abused or you're in that kind of a situation, there's sort of a mindset that goes with it, that you're just afraid, that you're just a victim. And like perhaps people blame themselves and say, I've just made so many mistakes, I've gone so far, this is it.
Right.
And now you work with people as a life coach to help pull them out of that.
I do.
How can you help today with this book and maybe some tips that you could offer?
You know, I wanted to just share what God did for me and how I came out of it, and then just kind of challenge people to just get off the couch, get out of that depression, lose the guilt, lose the shame, get help, For me, that meant going on antidepressants, which to me was like a no-no because of my upbringing. And you know what? It doesn't matter. God uses all kinds of vehicles to heal. And I would just say your life is too short to be stuck in this time.
Right. And, you know, I know because I've read what you wrote. You mentioned the word Prozac. And I know that a lot of people, you know, I know that a lot of you out there, you know, people wince. They just, no, this can't be happening to me.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset. And it's a judgment. You know, if I fell down and I broke my toe or did something and I took a pill for that, not many Christians would criticize.
Right.
But if you do Prozac, if you do antidepressants, everybody and Three Brothers are all praying for you.
Yeah.
And I want to say this, if you feel like you just can't do that, then you can't do that. But I do think that God uses Prozac for some situations too.
Yes.
So you had to go on medicine.
Yes.
And that was able to help you come out of it.
Oh, big time. And like within a week, it just started clearing up my mind and taking the anxiety away. And I don't know why I waited 15 years to get there. It was like 15 years of my life wasted because I was so sure God was just going to heal me, and he was, but my nervous system and everything was totally frozen. Yeah. I had no way to get over that.
Well, you know, it's just like in the physical.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so sick. We just absolutely need a doctor's intervention and we need medication.
Yeah.
But it's like as believers, we want to refuse to understand that the same can be true for emotional things. But there are times, there are times that what we go through is so traumatic and it's so horrific. I'm not talking about becoming dependent upon drugs. That's not what you're talking about.
No, 1 year.
What 1 year? Yeah. But that pill, that Prozac, helped the fog be able to lift so that you could think again.
Yeah.
To even like take the steps that you needed to be free. So I try to tell people, you know, sometimes, not for all people, but sometimes medication can be like a step stool. It helps you get to the next level where you can start thinking independently and living on your own. So then you're on this medicine, and what are the other things that you do to help get yourself to heal?
You know, I started going to a counselor, and I started just accepting my past and owning it.
Yeah.
Not blaming my ex-husband, but be in a partnership with him. I made the choice to get pregnant at 18. I made the choice to marry him because I was pregnant. I mean, it's not all just his fault. It's just little turns that I've taken along the road that got me there. So I just had to own my story and then deal with it, get forgiveness, get rid of the shame and guilt, and just say, okay, I'm going to move forward now. And life's too short. I'm going to keep going.
And is that, Jan, the message in this book and your message to people now as a life coach that, you know, wherever you are, kind of if you'll own that and realize that, you know, a lot of times people want to blame their exes for everything.
Yeah.
You know, they were horrible, they did this, they did, but you know.
Two-way street.
Yeah, it is a two-way street. And like you said, you made the choice to get pregnant.
Right.
You still made the choice to marry him. Now, granted, he wasn't helpful.
Not at all.
But you had a part in getting there. And you're saying if we'll accept ownership, it will help you move past that.
Yes.
What are some other things that you might share that could help somebody who's just stuck on the couch, depressed right this second?
Right. Don't dwell on the negative outcomes of what you've gone through. You can have a life lesson out of everything you go through. So instead of saying, oh, I got pregnant at 18, married a jerk, and, you know, got beat up and this, you can say, I got married at 18 and pregnant, and I have a beautiful daughter who now has given me 4 beautiful grandchildren. So praise God that happened because of that.
Yeah.
You know, so you look for the good. You don't dwell on don't take the negative things as your truth. Make another truth out of it, of that makes that beauty out of those ashes.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you shared with me, Jan, and a lot of people can't see it as they're stuck on the couch, is that even with all that you went through, and it's a whole lot, you know, you have a happy ending. You have a beautiful life now.
I do.
How did you ever think when you were on the couch that all of the good things would happen?
I felt like I just was going to crawl in a corner and die. I didn't even want to try. But 30 years this January of a beautiful marriage and grandchildren, just
So you've got all the things. Do you still sing in the choir?
I do.
You do?
Sing on the worship team, lead worship. Yeah.
So, but you're doing that now without the bruises.
Without the bruises, unless I run into the door jam,
Yeah.
which is truth this time.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times too. What is your message to somebody, Jan, right now that might be in the choir and perhaps not, but they're hiding the abuse?
Yeah.
Could you have gotten to the place that you are now if you had not opened up?
No. I think you have to be honest, and you have to, life is community, and you can't do it alone. And you really do need those people to come link arms with you and hold you up. Mm-hmm. And who knows, they may have already walked that path, so they can help you. Mm-hmm. And to just have that extra support and just get rid of the embarrassment of it, and just say, you know, it is what it is. This is where I'm at. And we're called to love people where they're at. Mm-hmm. So if they can't love you, then maybe find somebody else.
Right.
Because they're not fulfilling their mission in Christ to love you where you're at and to help you.
Because I was just going to ask you, you know, we say the words, you can get over your embarrassment and your shame. And some of us don't know how to do that. And others of us, even when we take the risk to tell someone, you know, sometimes, honestly, it's the wrong person. It's somebody that won't keep our trust, or they don't know what to do with the information. It's too much for them.
Yes.
So is having a realistic expectation like, okay, well, I'm going to risk, and it might not work, but then I would just risk and tell somebody else? I mean, is that how it works?
Yeah, basically, because if you risk and you fail getting somebody to support you, and then you stop, how are you ever going to find the person? Like, you just have to keep risking, but be careful. I mean, test the waters a little bit first. I mean, I wouldn't just like verbally vomit your story to them.
Sure.
But just, you know, test the waters to see if they're a real prayer partner with you and a real mentor with you. Yeah. And as you grow in that relationship, you'll know. Yeah. And then you can confide. And, you know, and there's also Christian counselors and professionals too. Yeah. If you can't find a friend or family member, seek a professional counselor, because really, they're bound by law to be confidential, right?
You know what, they are, and they're also trained in how to help and how to help us think through. Yeah. Because one of the things that you shared with me that I thought was just so important was that you were saying you can get over the victim mentality, because what a lot of women and men do is that once we've become a victim, we stay there because we don't know how to think any differently or how to interact with other people differently.
Exactly. It's a tough
So you don't think like a victim anymore.
I don't, but it took me a long time. In fact, my current husband had treated me so well. It was like I went from this abusive situation to I tell him he treated me like a princess. Aww. And I didn't know what to do with that. And so I literally tried to still live in the life that I was being abused. And so I still treated my husband like he was abusing me. And finally he just looked at me and said, honey, I'm not Nathan. Yeah. And I will never do that to you. You need to just trust me. Yeah. And so I just had to let go and put my guard down and just start trusting. Yeah,
got to get off the couch and live. I want to thank you for coming today and for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
It's been a blessing. The book is called Hiding My Bruises While Singing in the Choir, and it can help you get up off the couch and live again. We've got to go, but goodbye, and God bless you.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org.